Hello, welcome back students. So in this video I will be covering the rest of the explanation of Cookie Lady. I've also discussed one of the answers and which is the isolation of Cookie Lady. There's one more, that is the symbolism of weeds, Bubber and Cookie Lady, similarity, parallels between Bubber and Mrs. Drew, that's also there. All of these most probably will be 5-mark question which I will tackle in detail, but today I've focused primarily on isolation of Mrs. Drew. Mrs. Drew as a figure, how is she? So please do tune in, watch the video. In between I've had these little minutes of explanation where we have talked about the words that we can use. I hope it's of use to you and you like the video. Okay students, so now we'll continue from where we stopped in the previous class previous video. In the previous video we stopped at the point where Bubber abruptly stopped reading and he was about to leave, and that leaves Leaves, that leaves Mrs. Drew in almost a state of emotional wretchedness. She's waking up as if from a dream. She's dazed, and then she's like, okay, Baba says, I'll see you later, and then we'll continue. Please, she whispered, please come back again. Will you come back? This is important because this reflects to us. Today also in the video, I will be, as I said earlier in the introduction, that I will be stopping, I'll be pausing, and we'll sit and discuss 1 or 2 5-mark questions, because previous year they had already given a 10-mark question. So the probability is that they might not give a 10-mark question, but they can give a 5-mark question. They can even repeat another 10-mark question. That could happen. So we'll take up in between, we'll take up a question, and we'll try to choose the right words for writing the answer and analyze and read and write a mini answer in the video itself. Okay, so please, she whispered, please come back. Okay, yeah, please come back. Will you come back? Sure, Bubber said listily. Okay, sure, Bubber said listily. He pushed the door. Goodbye. He went down the steps. Sure, Bubber said listily. Bubber just is going about. Okay, fine. Okay, I'll come. In a moment, she heard his shoes against the sidewalk. He was gone. In a moment, she heard his shoes against the sidewalk. So she noticed, she observed. This information tells us that how quickly Bubber went away. In just a moment, his shoes were against the sidewalk and he is gone. Bubber, you come in here. Miss Hurley, she's Bubber's mother. Miss Hurley stood angrily on the porch. You get in here and sit down at the table. So she's directing Bubber, sit down at the table. All right, Bubber came slowly up onto the porch. So when Bubber returns, he's not as his usual quick self. Okay, he's coming up slowly. So you can underline that, put that within quotation or whatever. Came slowly up on the porch, pushing inside the house. What's the matter with you? She caught his arm. Where you been? Are you sick? I'm tired. Bubber rubbed his forehead. So these are the changes that come over Bubber once he returns back from the Cookie Lady's house or Mrs. Drew's house. His father came through the living room with the newspaper in his undershirt. What's the matter? He said. Look at him, Miss Hurley said, all worn out. Another effect, all worn out. He's all exhausted. What you been doing, Bubber? He's been visiting that old lady, Ralph Hurley said. Can't you tell? He's always washed out. He's always tired after he's been visiting her. What do you go there for, Bub? What goes on? She gives him cookies. You know how he's about with things to eat. Things to eat. So how he loves food. He's fascinated with food. He's a what is that called? Foodie, a food lover. He'd do anything for a plate of cookies. Bub, his father said, listen to me. I don't want you hanging around that crazy lady anymore. So again, this is important here. Why? Because this is Mrs. Drew's. This is how Mrs. Drew is viewed by the people in the society. She's a crazy lady. She's an old lady, crazy old lady. Why? Because she's all isolated. Why is she isolated? Today at length I'll talk about the isolation of Mrs. Drew and how is this isolation associated with one of the plot elements, the main part of the story. How is this associated with her being the Cookie Lady? Bub, his father said, listen to me. I don't want you hanging around that crazy lady anymore. Do you hear me? I don't care how many cookies she gives you. You come home too tired. No more of that. You hear me? So all of this is almost a scene which reflects to us that how Babar's parents are. Babar's parents are almost concerned about him, but still there's something quite not right about them, because even though they notice that the child comes from the conversation, we get to know from the conversation, their conversation reveals to us. So the answer, the way you can frame your answer, so this is your one of those marks that you can use. The way you can frame your answer is you can say that their conversation reveals that Babar has always felt tired, has always felt exhaustion after returning from Mrs. Drew's house, and yet his parents still somehow allow him. So it shows that his parents are concerned, but his parents are not exactly quite involved or quite engaged with their child's life as they should be, because they are allowing him to visit this lady's house, even though whenever he returns all tired and worn out whenever he returns back from Cookie Lady's house. Do you hear me? I don't care how many cookies, you come home too tired. Baba looked down at the floor, leaning against the door. His heart beat heavily, labored, slow beat heartbeats. I told her I'd come back, he muttered. So he's almost in a low voice. He's tired, he's exhausted. You can go once more, May said, going into the dining room, but only once more. Tell her you won't be able to come back again. Though you make sure to tell her nice. Now go upstairs and get washed up. So as I was saying, the parents are concerned, but parents, as a figure of parents, do not appear to be in a really good light here. Why? Because even though Babar comes back exhausted, every time he visits, with each visit, his parents are still till this point allowing him, and only till this point. After this point, they say you can go only once more. After dinner, better have him lie down, Ralph said, looking up the stairs, watching Babar climb slowly. All of the ways in which Babar has now become exhausted, has now become tired. His hand on the banister, he shook his head. I don't like it, he murmured. I don't want him going there anymore. There's something strange about that old lady. Again, strange old lady. Keywords that you can use for your description of Mrs. Drew. Well, it'll be last time, May said. Wednesday was warm. Baba strode along. Strode is to take big long steps. So his energy is revived. He's back. He's rejuvenated. He's refreshed. Hands in his pocket, he stopped in front of McQueen's drugstore for a minute, looking speculatively, thoughtfully, with a long thought. At the comic books at soda fountain, a woman was drinking a big chocolate soda. The sight of it made Babar's mouth water. So this is our key points for Babar as a foodie. Made Babar's mouth water. That settled it. Means that decided for Babar. He turned and continued on his way, even increasing his pace a little. A few minutes later, he came up on the grey sagging porch and rang the bell. Below him, the weeds blew and rustled with the wind. Important, weeds blew and rustled. So as soon as Babar enters as soon as Babar enters the premise of this house, it's almost like he creates a movement in amidst these weeds. And we have already established that how Mrs. Drew has, I don't recall correctly whether I have done this or not, but Mrs. Drew has is almost similar to weeds. Why? Because just like weeds are wispy plant, weeds are unwanted, weeds are ignored, isolated plants. Similarly, Mrs. Drew's role in society as an old woman is of one who's not been taken care of, who's not been seeked out, who's not been someone who's in the society. People are calling her strange, people are calling her old lady. So she is like a weed in the society. She's not a flower, she's like a weed in the society. And Babar coming here is almost an impetus. It's almost like a stirring point in her, just like the weeds are rustling and stirring. It's almost 4 o'clock. He could not stay too long, but then it was the last time anyhow. The door opened. Mrs. Drew, wrinkled face, broke into smiles. Come in, Bernard. It's good to see you standing there. It makes me feel so young again. So what she means is, she means it actually literally. She means it literally, but for Babar it might be figuratively. For Babar it might be your presence gives me so much of energy, but actually his presence gives her so much of energy. He makes me feel young again to have you come visit. He went inside looking around. I'll start the cookies. I didn't know if you were coming. She padded into the kitchen. I'll get them started right away. You sit down on the couch. Babar went over and sat down. He noticed that the table and the lamp were gone. So the only obstruction between the cookie lady, between Mrs. Drew and Babar, was the table and the lamp, and now she had taken them away so she could sit more closely to Babar, get more sense of his energy, extract more of his energy into herself. And the chair was right up next to the couch. He was looking up at the chair in perplexity when Mrs. Drew came rustling back into the room. Perplexity, as I've written, confusion. They're in the oven. I had the batter already. Now she sat down in the chair with a sigh. Well, how did it go? How was school? Fine. She nodded. How plump he was. The little boy sitting just a little distance from her, his cheeks red and full. So she's almost focusing on his healthiness. She's focusing on his full cheeks. She's focusing on how chubby he is. All of that which gives him vitality, which gives him life, which is what she craves. Why does she crave that? Now we'll stop and pause here and have a moment of conversation with Mrs. Drew, her being an isolated figure, and then get a little more deeper into our framing of her answer of Mrs. Drew, and then switch back to the explanation. Just a second. Yes, children. So why does Mrs. Drew does what she does? Okay, why is she craving Babar's? Why is she yearning for Babar's youth, Babar's vitality, Babar's vigor, Babar's energy? Why is that? Okay, again, so before we go into that, 3 to 4 words that you can use for your answers in case there is a question on Babar, on isolation of Mrs. Drew, symbolism of we. There are a couple of questions that's just coming to my mind right now. All of this could be 5-mark questions. Similarity between Babar and similarity between Weeds and what is her name, Mrs. Drew, right? So what are the 3 adjectives that you can use, that you can associate with Babar? Babar has vitality, Babar has vigor, Babar has energy, all of that, life force, all of that is all of those are the attributes which Mrs. Drew craves or yearns for. Why does she do that? Why? She does that because she is an isolated figure. How is she now let's tackle the question, how is she an isolated figure? Then you can ask, ma'am, how do I understand, how do I write my answer, how do I understand she is an isolated figure? She is an isolated figure. The cookie lady is an isolated figure. Why? Because she has become old. Being old has deprived her of her strength, right? Being old has made her feeble. So she has become feeble, she has become weak, has made her feeble. She doesn't have much of a physical strength. That is why the writer Philip K.Dick uses the word rustled. Okay, so she doesn't tottered. I think he'll also use the word tottered. Was it for Babar? I don't know. Was it for cookie lady? I'll just check and let you know. Tottered is to walk unsteadily. I think it was for Babar, or just a second. It was for Babar or a cookie lady. Okay, just a second. Yes, this was for cookie lady. So I was right. It's page 145, where it says she tottered to the mirror above the mantelpiece and looked at herself. So tottered. So the verbs of movement that the writer is using for cookie lady is not exactly movements of strength. It's not those. So being an old lady, a lot of times you could also observe how he has used words like little old lady. He has used adjectives little old lady, grey. All of that denotes, it's almost like she is again a reflection of her own house. The way her house is all grey, unkempt, and one of the reasons why her house is all unkempt, not maintained, ill maintained is because obviously she, being an old lady, does not have enough strength to keep at it, does not have enough strength to maintain her house. She does not have all of that. And since she does not has all of that, what is the problem here? The thing is that she wants that. She wants her energy, she wants her youth, she wants the agility, she wants that health, okay, that Babbar has. So how she isolated? She's isolated because she does not has any of those things. She does not have strength, she does not has since she does not have strength, she is not an active member of the society. Since she is not an active member of society, she doesn't move about, she doesn't go out, and since she does not go out, not a lot of people know her. She is considered as, in the words of Ralph Searle, old strange lady. She's considered strange, she's considered old, she's being judged by, or rather interpreted by, the people in that way, right? The only people who visit her are, she often goes out to collect her pension, I think. Yeah, she went to the store only when she went to the store, and or the mailman came with her pension check, or this only when she went to the store. She saw so few people, so she's not being active member of the society she's in. That creates a sense of isolation for her. So page 144, why had she done it? She did not know. She has been alone so long that she found herself saying strange things, doing strange things. Shows her point of isolation had brought her to this level, had made her desperate to this level. Now this is why she becomes the cookie lady. Mrs. Drew is the cookie lady. She uses cookie as a bait to lure boys like teenagers like Babbar. Why? Because Babbar has the vitality, has the youthfulness, has the energy, has the life force, flesh and blood. He has all of that Mrs. Drew no longer has. And because she does not have, she wants that. She wants to feel young. She wants her bones to have flesh in it. She wants to have a particular physique, and all of that is making, and more than that, when she'll have energy enough to stand up, to interact, to work, to go out, to do all sorts of things, and be no longer isolated. And that is where how we write our answer on Mrs. Drew as a figure of isolation, as an isolated figure. How she isolated, I have explained that to you. Now let's go back to our explanation. Yes. Her aged heart thumped. To be young again. Youth was so much. It was everything. That is why. It was everything. So this woman was lost so much because of youth. Craves, yearns for, longs for, desires youth. What did the world mean to the old? Why is she thinking that? Because being old, she's being treated like weeds. Since she's being treated like weeds, she's like, what does the world mean to old? Old people are just weeds. They are old, they're strange, they're crazy. Okay. Do you want to read to me, Bernard? She asks presently. At the moment, I didn't bring any books. Oh, she nodded. Well, I have some books, she said quickly. I'll get them. She got up, crossing to the bookcase. As she opened the doors, Babbar said, Mrs. Drew, my father says I can't come here anymore. He says this is the last time. I thought I'll tell you. She stopped, standing rigid. So this is the point of fracture for her. Why? Because the source from which she is getting all of her energy, even momentarily she is getting all her youth back, is no longer going to come. Okay, everything seemed to leap around the room, twisting furiously. So it's almost like anger, because the room is almost twisting, is wreathing, it's seething. It's almost like she feels a sense of anger. The room twisting furiously. The room twists. See, also shock. More than anger, I've written anger here, but also shock. The room twisting furiously. She took a harsh, frightened breath. Bernard, you're not coming back? No, my father says not to. There was a silence. The old lady took a book at random and came slowly back to her chair. After a while, she passed the book to him in her hands trembling. The boy took it without expression, looking at its cover. Please read, Bernard, please. All right, he opened the book. Where will I start? Anywhere, Bernard, anywhere. Okay. Okay, he began to read. It was something by Trollope. Trollope is Anthony Trollope, one of the Irish, if I remember, Irish English writer, but English most probably, but he also wrote about Ireland. I'll let you know once after I verify. She only heard the words. She put her hands, she only half read the words. She put her hands to her forehead. The dry skin again, making her similar to weeds. Dryness. The dry skin, brittle and thin, like brittle is grass, like thin, like old paper. She trembled with anguish, with pain, with torture, anguish, mental pain. Okay, the last time, Baba read on slowly, monotonously. Against the window a fly buzzed. Outside the sun began to set, the air turning cool. A few clouds came by and the wind in the tree rushed furiously. Now all of this is the part of the ambience, the atmosphere that the writer is creating, okay, for us by the time the chapter is going to come to an end. The last time the old lady sat close by, closer than ever, hearing him read, the sound of his voice, sensing him close by. Was this really the last time? Terror rose up in her heart and she pushed it back. The last time. So again, all of this shows why terror. Why does she feel threatened? Why does she feel scared? Because she's so isolated that she does not want to even let go. Babar is almost to think of it in one way is also that Babar is also a point of human connection for her. Babar is the only person who's coming in her house, even though he is coming there just for cookies, but he is a person who's coming there in her house. So he's providing her that, like human connection, human connectivity to her. And that human connectivity is of essence to her, and she needs more of that, to the extent that she can let go. She can shed, almost like a snake, she can shed her oldness, she can shed her being old, she can shed her old age and become youth and become young again, and be there in the society, be there with all of her strength, be there, have that physical strength within her. The last time she gazed at him, the boy sitting so close to her, after a time she reached out her thin, dry hand. Again, thin, dry hand. She took a deep breath. He would never be back. There would be no more times. No more. This was the last time he would sit here. She touched his arm. Baba looked up. "What is it?" he murmured. "You don't mind if I touch your arm, do you?" "No, I guess not." He went on reading. The old lady could feel the youngness of him flowing between her fingers through her arm, a pulsating, vibrating youngness so close to her. It had never been that close where she could actually touch it. The feel of life made her dizzy, unsteady. Dizzy, unsteady, another word that comes to mind is intoxicated. So almost intoxicated. So she's almost like a drunk person. She's getting drunk with the wine. There's a phrase called drunk with the wine of youth, but here it's like that. She's getting drunk with that youthfulness of Baba. And presently it began to happen as before. She closed her eyes, letting it move over her, filling her, carried into her by the sound of the voice and the feel of the arm. The change, the flow was coming over her, the warm feeling rising. So before that, thin, dry, but with the youth within her, with her youth returning back, she feels warm. She feels this feeling of rising warmth, which is rising within her. So she feels that sense of warmth. She's blooming again, filling with life, swelling into richness. So this is what she wants, to bloom, to fill with life, to swell into richness as she had been once long ago. She looked down at her arms, rounded they were, and the nails clear, her hair black again, heavy and black against her neck. She touched her cheek, the wrinkles had gone, the skin pliant and soft. Pliant means supple, pliant and soft. Joy filled her, a growing, bursting joy. She stared around her at the room. She smiled, feeling her firm teeth and gums, red lips strong by teeth. Suddenly she got to her feet, her body secure and confident. Again, this is what she wants, to feel that security, to feel that confidence. She turned a little lit quick circle, slim, flexible circle. Okay, she turned a little, and her turn is little, she's flexible and she makes a circle. Okay. Bubber, stop reading. Are the cookies ready? I'll see. Her voice was alive, deep with the quality that had dried out again. That had dried out, like herself, like the weeds that had dried out many years before. Now it was there again. Her voice throaty and sensual. So her voice full of life. Throaty and sensual, full of life. She walked away quickly to the kitchen and opened the oven. All ready, she said gaily. Gaily means happily. Come and get them. Bubber passed her, his gaze fastened to the side of the cookie. Such is Bubber's love for food that he did not even notice the woman by the door. Mrs. Drew hurried from the kitchen. She went into the bedroom, closing the door after her. Then she turned, gazing into the full-length mirror on the door. Young she was, young again, filled with the sap of vigorous youth. One of the key words that you can use in your answer. Sap of vigorous youth, juice of vigorous youth. She took a deep breath, her steady bosom, chest swelling, her eyes flashed and she smiled. She spun, her skirts flying, young and lovely. And this time it had not gone away. So what she wants is this eternal source, and what she wants is this eternal youth. What she wants is her youth to be always there. She doesn't want to be a slave to the limitations of being old, to the limitations of her age. She wants that eternal youthfulness to be there. And this is where Mrs. Drew's character turns in a turn and turns in a turn. Wow. This is where Mrs. Drew's character, for us readers, changes and shifts. How does it changes and shifts? Let's discuss that. Yes, sure. So it changes, changes and shifts, because although Mrs. Drew perhaps might be right, although Mrs. Drew perhaps might be a complicated figure, definitely is a complicated figure, because her isolation, her isolation from others, her sense of being the word that comes to my head is quarantine, but that's not exactly the right word here, so I'm not going to use. But a sense of being away from other people, from being no longer a part of the society, only going few days to the store because she's old enough. All of these makes her crave companionship, and Bubber is a kind of Bubber does provide a kind of renders companionship to her. But this is the point where it takes a turn, because just to get that, a person is not coming to accept, she's not accepting the fact, she's not willing to accept that how there are only certain phases or periods in life that we can sustain for so long. You cannot be same for all the period of your life. So if you have youth, your youth will continue from so and so period of time. After that, you will come to different part of your different phase of your life, and you have to accept it. But Mrs. Drew is not willing to accept it, and because she is not willing to accept it, what the means that she's employing to get that is almost parasitic. She's depending on the energy, she's depending on the vitality of young boys, or young teenage boy in this case, Bubber, to get back her youth. And this is where a sinister, another word that we can use for Mrs. Drew's approach, this is where a sinister look can be put on her. A sinister look is actually put on her action. Why? Because she is whatever she's doing, she's doing out of selfish motives. She's being selfish, she's being sinister, she's being evil. Why? Because because she's old and she's not willing to accept that. And obviously partly maybe the society is also to be blamed, because they are not interacting with her, or no one is visiting her a lot, or whatever, and she's all there like a weed standing back. The house is also away from, at the end, it's the last house, it's at the end of the street, a little away from the lot, still little distance from the lot. All of this reflects her distance from other people, other members of the society, but it also shows that she as a person is not accepting it well enough, and her way of not accepting is almost sinister, because in this way she's trying to take advantage of naive young boys like Babar by luring them with cookies. Okay, so this is where the character analysis of Mrs. Drew, first of all the isolation of Mrs. Drew, why is she an isolated figure, and then how is her isolation associated with her character, is what is covered so far. So most probably we'll be taking up, we just have I think one more page, and then in the next video I'll wrap it up. I'll also go just like this, I'll go into details of certain answers, certain keywords, and if all of this makes sense to you, it's in any way helpful to you, then please do share it with your friends, please do watch it, let me know, please be interactive, please do not let me turn into Mrs. Drew. So please be interactive, comment whatever your suggestions are, or whether you liked it. Please like the video. If you can subscribe, well and great, that will give me some kind of encouragement. But do share and like if it's of any kind of benefit to you, because I'm trying my best here to help you to shape your answers in a way, not that you rely on shortcuts, but you know your base really well, write great answers for your upcoming examination. So happy learning, stay well and study hard. Take care. Bye-bye.